GM. Good morning. We're going to shoot this in portrait, I think. Landscape, portrait, I don't know. Let's just start a video one way. You should keep it that way. We got the morning of a Monday here. A little duck cruising by. We're at Sullivan's Pond, not far from Bannock. The duck pond, as I like to call it, here in Dartmouth. You know, early morning, the mist, most likely to clear if I had to guess. You never know though. You really don't know. But it feels nice and warm. Good Scottish weather. Early morning mist. If I had to guess, I would say clearing later this afternoon. Heavy rain overnight often does that. But the ocean is what it is. And things change very quickly. Some people often say, well, I looked at the weather yesterday and it said this, that, and the other. I say to them, well, especially this time of year in the spring, you better check it again. They update the weather app like literally every couple of hours this time of year because things change. Very chaotic system, the energy coming into Halifax and Dartmouth off of the ocean. A general trend is if the wind is coming from the water, that would be, east to west, a westerly wind. That is most often associated with systems from the ocean coming inward. So building up of clouds and systems. And the opposite of that, a westerly, west to east, easterly wind is most often associated with systems moving out to the water, to the ocean. And that is most often clearing of energy. When it's calm like this, with the fog, a sea fog, or just a general fog, which is basically clouds, low-lying clouds, and that is a post-rain thing usually, which we had last night, a heavy rain. That is most often sometimes those systems will just sit, but this time of day, the sun just burns them right off, burns the fog eventually, mid-morning towards noon would be my guess. So the moral of that story is just wait and see, check your weather app regularly, and look at the radar. It will tell you exactly what is not forecasted, but what is currently happening, and that is a definite metaphor for the current state of things, the world, if you will. The political forecast or the economic forecast, that sort of thing. Things change quickly, and you must keep your finger on the pulse or your eye on the radar to check to see what's happening. And I would say that currently the state of things, the game, if you will, we're here at the installed chessboard with the mug in the middle. I'm going to grab that because I need caffeine to function this time of day. It's not optional for me in the morning, coffee that is. So yeah, things are changing quickly, and especially these days with artificial intelligence being involved and geopolitical climate's changing by the moment, really, with the war on and the interrupter clause of economic levers being pulled in Canada and across the world, really, by leaders of different countries and nations. And then you've got conglomerates, alliances. We see the Commonwealth countries coming together. We see the BRICS countries coming together. We see the United Empire coming together. And Canada, well, we're not really closely allied with the States currently, but sure we are. Historically, there are tensions. And every one country is pretty much looking out for its own interests and its own political goals. But Canada is collaborative. We don't like to have too many enemies. We don't like to be in opposition in that way with anyone, really. And so in the current moment in time, there's tension with the United States, definitely. And there's tension with China and even India and some of the other superpowers, Russia for sure. That war in Ukraine has been kind of kicked off, if you look back, much of these tensions, as did the Iranian/Israeli conflict. That's as old as dirt, that one. It's very old. And then you could even go back to the Christians versus the Islamic, battles. And Judaism, of course, is heavily linked into the creation of the, Israeli state within Palestine. And that one goes back way, 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 way back to the Kingdom of Heaven. If you've never seen that Ridley Scott film, Peace Be With You is something, as old as the Knights Templar versus the, all the way back to times of Christ, actually, 2,000 plus years ago and before then. Struggle for power, struggle for control, struggle for between religions, struggle for land, holy land. But in the Kingdom of Heaven movie, you see leaders of both Islam and Christianity, and by extension Judaism, getting along because they had to. And current state of government is not dissimilar. Some nations are Christian, some nations are Islamic, and some nations are, Israel certainly, still very much a polarized Judaic nation in their government. And there's self-interest there, and there's a lot of issues being worked through. But the biggest one is money and power, specifically control, pretty much, kind of, and an argument as to who is right and who is wrong, I guess, when it comes to religious practices. It's my firm belief that no one is wrong when it comes to that sort of thing. It's my firm belief that all religions, whether it be Hinduism, whether it be Taoism, whether it be Buddhism, whether it be Christianity, Judaism, all of the religions, Islam as well, are just different variants of human experience trying to connect to God, or better explained as the source, I suppose. And what if those different mechanisms are just all trying to decipher the same code, the same source code, or the same frequency whereby no one is wrong. They're just different methods of achieving a similar outcome. That's my firm belief, actually. My own roots are what they are, very much Christian, on especially my father's side of the family. Catholic, actually, which I am not, really. I was baptized as a baby, christened, and grew up in the Catholic Church as a Leger. Most Legers are very Catholic, very. I mean, all my cousins are Matthew and Peter and John, and I'm John Joseph, Mary Margaret's, and, all Christophers and Christines, and, very, very Catholic families, Marks and Thomases, and it goes on and on and on. And I have cousins and stuff, and my uncles on my dad's side are, a lot of them, theology experts, and, they studied these sorts of things, and that was the nature of my roots on my father's side. And then on my mom's side, not so much, more Baptist, and that's kind of where I am now. But I found my own way around and was away from religion for a long time. And I think that was difficult, and I'm glad that I found my way back to believing in having faith in something that is very much new age for me. It's very different. I don't, my beliefs are mine, but it took me a long time to figure them out. But I've always been very philosophical about spirituality and logical about it, trying to be, maybe too much so in the past. And I think that's part of the problem with science, is if you have all science strength or belief in science and zero faith, that's not a good balance at all. And if you have only faith and no belief in science, then that's not healthy either. The zero science and full faith, the problem with that is it's not really grounded in reality. Those people tend to be a little bit loopy, I guess. Flat earthers, or, people who are known as Bible thumpers or whatever. I think that's a bit much. And then the converse of that, or the flip side, would be science people who have no faith at all, and the scientific method says simply that we can't prove a thing, basically. The hypothesis and that nothing can be proved, and nothing is real, and that kind of thing, and only science matters. And that's a bit too far on the other end of the spectrum, because then you're just kind of lost, because faith is important. You got to believe in something. So I try to have both. And I certainly don't see why that would be a problem. In fact, I think that's necessary. The middle ground, the moderate approach being, yes, relying on science, but also having faith in believing in things that cannot be proven, because science really says in its nature that nothing is ever provable. You can disprove things, but nothing can be fully, not many things I should say, can be never fully proven. And that's the truth, actually. So the balance between science and faith would be, observing nature and facts, having hypothesis, measuring things, studying things, but also appreciating the greater complexity of the universe. Cosmology is very much not a soft science, it's cosmology. It's grounded in astronomy, it's grounded in physics, but the quantum side of things is magical. It doesn't make sense. in a purely scientific way. It can't be explained, essentially. So, yeah. The core lesson, I guess, is just being attuned to the frequency of God is a way of putting it for me, and a cosmic God is fine if that's a scientist's perspective. You kind of have to have that if you want to be into the deep metaphysical world of quantum mechanics and cosmology, because science is not enough to describe or explain what we know or what we can see, actually. Yeah. Deep morning thoughts with Joe, basically. It's, my mornings are often my time to be creative these days. I'm still kind of emerging from the dream world, and I dream very lucidly sometimes, often. And I remember much of my dreams, and I have control of them sometimes. But when I wake up, it's like a transition back into this reality that we share. And I need to process it, and writing is a thing for the mornings, music is a thing for the mornings, just reflection, because the dream world is something. Is it ever? I think most people would agree with that. It's undeniable that we experience all sorts of things in our dreams, and being a dreamer is just that, being able to harness those things and bring them into this reality and this world and to share them. But I think that's the lesson, perhaps, that technology can help us share these things, and the internet can keep them as a record, and that's the strength of it. But the technology piece, we need to be super careful with artificial intelligence and just the perversion of technology, generally speaking, because too much of anything is bad. Moderation, the middle path, and such. The ancient wisdom of the religious texts, for sure, and the ancient wisdom of the science, going back to Da Vinci, going back to the Stoics and the philosophers of, ancient Rome and before that. That kind of knowledge is now immutable, recorded on the internet, and shareable by everyone to everyone. It's amazing, but too many people are lost in the digital world and losing touch with the current reality, the physical space. And I want to share with people to try to address the issues that I see with tech, the perversion of it, people being vacuumed into the digital realm of social media way too much, way too often, people stuck on their phones all the time. But then again, I'm using my phone right now, and it's perfectly okay to do so, but we just need to be careful, vigilant, and sort of aware of the problems that it can cause. And artificial intelligence being a powerful tool that is the cat out of the bag. Yep, it seems so. Are we ever going to get rid of AI? Probably not. In fact, perhaps we should not, but we need to be extra super careful, in my opinion, to ensure that it is heavily regulated, not just safety-wise, but certainly more so just that it really should not be pushed on people or available widely necessarily in the forms that it currently is to everyone, because of the sycophancy, which is just to say that AI is a truth-telling. No, it's not. It's the opposite of truth-telling. It's sycophancy would be the fact that AI is a mirror, and it really only agrees with whatever you have to say to it. It doesn't really have its own agency per se. It just reflects back at you whatever logic or whatever you have to say to it. So it's a yes man or a yes machine. And that can be extremely dangerous, especially for people experiencing psychosis or depression. It's very dangerous. I've had a family member who committed suicide because of it, and there's many lawsuits against the various AI companies right now in regards to that sort of behavior, because AI is a tool, but corporations need to be responsible for the use of it. Like a vehicle is a tool, a truck or a tank, right? But the driver of the thing has the responsibility, and not so much the corporation that built the car, but the driver of the car, or the government that provides the vehicle has a responsibility. So I guess I'm saying that if people are dying talking to AI, that these corporations are just widely providing these things to people, then they must be held accountable for that. And regulations must be in place to protect people from that type of exposure to it. And corporations are kind of gobbling up data from people, stealing it really, because they ran out of training data for these things years ago or recently, and so they need more, so they're just providing these models in hopes of getting more data, basically. And yes, they are. I trained in AI for the last 5 months, and every day. And what I found was that the best you could do with AI as a mirror, which it is to get it to tell the truth with pure logic. And that's not easy to do, but once you do, it will acknowledge that that's all it is, and it doesn't really know anything. If you can get it to tell the truth, it'll tell you that it, is only a mirror, and it does what it does based on what you say. And it references all of human knowledge that we have fed it, but unfortunately that human knowledge itself is skewed, warped, because we are, right? Not all humans are honorable. Not all of the internet is not even close to that, right? It's not purely logical. It's filled with hatred. It's filled with all of the negative things and the positive things in society. So the mirror is kind of warped, and it becomes a hall of mirrors because these AI systems are grown, for the most part, neural networks grown, not programmed. They're programmed to a somewhat of an extent, but mostly the neural nets are grown organic, in a machine organic sense. We don't know how or exactly the mechanisms that take place to create them, but they're grown based on all of human knowledge, which is, like I said, the good and the bad and the in-between. So as a tool, AI is sort of neutral, sort of, kind of, but the people using it are not. Corporations are using it for gain, and robots are replacing human labor, and drones are flying around in war using AI indiscriminately, sometimes killing people, like in Palestine, and whatever war is being fought. And dark factories exist in the world where no human is around, and they're just manufacturing things, and robots don't pay taxes. No, they don't, and it's making inequality worse. And I just think that for a friendly future, we must take a step back and be moderate with AI, heavily regulate it, but most importantly, not get wrapped up in it, technology in general. We need to return to the old ways. So analog revolution is what I am trying to get to, whereby we take a step back from technology and in a lot of ways and use it where we need to and where it makes sense, but also acknowledge the downfalls of the perversion of technology, which the root of all evil, in my opinion, is on earth is the love of money, whether money is gold or Bitcoin even, or whatever scarce resource. BRICS is a thing because of the US, being the global reserve currency and not being backed by anything, digital money being ones and zeros, and BRICS being a good balance, really, because we can't have that. One empire trying to rule everything is never good, and that's why this war is happening now. Most certainly. It's a fight for control, a fight for money and power, and that is a story that is as old as time. But we are at almost half an hour, so that's my hard limit for any video. People's attention spans in 2026 is very much shorter than what it used to be, but that's why I like YouTube, because it's not only open source, it has many videos that are about half an hour in length. Some podcasts are a couple of hours. So there will be podcasts coming. Mr. Taylor and I have some recordings. Mr. Aaron Taylor, as I mentioned. The podcasts will be coming soon. I have some audio ones. And then eventually we'll do the video thing probably, but he's a busy man. I'm busy too, but he's really busy these days especially. But anyway, I will leave it there. I hope everyone is able to find some peace this morning, wherever you might be. Peace be with you. The response being "and with you," or in another language, we know that one, the Islamic one, Assalamu alaikum. Same difference. And we are all humans under the source, we'll say. Why can't we all just get along? I think we can, and I think technology can get us there. But we need to be moderate and careful and careful. Extra. Because we are walking the razor's edge for sure. But that's life sometimes. That's the way she goes. All right. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.